Dr. Unikim wiped the sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed dirt away from the strange metal object buried in the red soil of Kepler 4, for it to be. The morning sun cast long shadows across the dig site, and the air was thin but breathable. On this distant world that humans had only discovered 3 years ago, this doesn't make sense, she whispered to herself, staring at the smooth surface that had just been revealed. The metal looked familiar, too familiar. It had the same patterns and markings she had seen in human museums back on Earth. Her partner, Dr. Lee Hunwoo, was working 20 meters away when he heard her confused voice. He looked up from his own excavation and saw Yuna kneeling over something, her face pale with shock. "What did you find?" called out, walking over with his tools. Still in hand, Yuna pointed at the object without saying a word. Hyunwoo knelt beside her and his eyes grew wide. The device was clearly some kind of navigation tool, with star maps etched into its surface. But the stars shown on the maps were arranged exactly like Earth's night sky. "Run the scanner on it," Yuna said quietly. Yuna pulled out his dating equipment and ran it over the metal surface. The numbers that appeared on his screen made him gasp. According to the scanner, this object was over 50,000 years old. That was impossible. Humans had only been traveling between stars for about 100 years. "Check it again, Yuna," demanded. The machine must be broken. Hyunwoo ran 3 more scans. Each time the results were the same. 50,000 years old. Human technology. Found buried on an alien world that humans had supposedly never visited before. The 2 scientists sat in silence for several minutes, staring at the impossible artifact. Around them, the dig site suddenly seemed different. What they had thought were natural rock formations now looked like they might be the remains of very old buildings. Strange marks in the dirt that they had ignored before now seemed like they could be symbols or writing. "Need to call Professor Park," Hyunwoo said finally. Their team leader. Professor Park Jin-won arrived at the site 3 hours later. He was an older man who had spent his whole life studying ancient civilizations, but he had never seen anything like this. As Yuna and Hyunwoo showed him their discovery, his face went through a series of expressions from doubt to amazement to fear. "Have you told anyone else about this?" he asked. "No. We waited for you," Yuna replied. Professor Park nodded slowly. "Good. We need to be very careful about how we handle this information." Over the next several hours, the 3 scientists expanded their search area. What they found made the situation even more strange and troubling. Buried throughout the site were more human artifacts, all showing the same impossible age. Found tools, weapons, and even what looked like the remains of a small spacecraft. The most shocking discovery came when Yuna found a cave hidden behind some fallen rocks. The walls inside were covered with paintings that looked exactly like the cave art found in ancient sites on Earth. But these paintings showed scenes that were clearly not from Earth. They showed 2 suns in the sky, strange plants, and animals. That looked like nothing that had ever lived on the human homeworld. "Look at this," Hyunwoo called from deeper in the cave. He was shining his light on a section of wall that showed human figures pointing up at the stars. Above them, painted in careful detail, were the constellations that could be seen from Earth. Professor Park studied the paintings for a long time without speaking. Finally, he turned to his 2 younger colleagues with a serious expression. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked them. Yuna and Hyunwoo looked at each other uncertainly. "It's to suggest that humans were here, on this world 50,000 years ago," Professor Park continued. "But according to everything we know about human history, our species was still living in caves on Earth at that time. We hadn't even invented agriculture yet." "Maybe the dating is wrong," Hyunwoo suggested hopefully. Professor Park shook his head. "I've been doing this work for 30 years. The equipment doesn't lie. And look around you. Everything here tells the same story. Humans were space travelers long before we thought possible." As the alien sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, the 3 scientists made camp near their discovery. They sat around a small fire, eating their simple meal, and staring at the artifacts that challenged everything they thought they knew about human history. "What are we going to do with this information?" Una asked. Professor Park stared into the fire for a long moment before answering. "We're going to tell the truth. First, we need to be absolutely certain of our facts. Tomorrow, we'll contact Earth and request more equipment and more people. This discovery is too important to handle alone." That night, as the two alien moons rose over Kepler-4 Fort to be, none of the three scientists slept well. They all knew that their discovery would change human understanding of their own past, but none of them could have guessed how much resistance they would face from those who preferred the old version of history. 3 weeks after the discovery on Kepler-4 Fort B, Dr. Minho Choi was digging through ancient ruins on Proxima Centauri b when his scanner started beeping wildly. He had found something that made his heart race. Buried under tons of rock and dirt was what looked like an entire human settlement, complete with buildings, tools, and even preserved food containers. "This can't be right," he muttered, running his equipment over the structures again and again. But every scan gave him the same impossible result. The settlement was 47,000 years old, built by humans who supposedly didn't even know how to make metal tools at that time. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Soyoung Yoon was having her own shocking discovery on TRAPPIST-1e. She had been studying what everyone thought were natural caves when she realized they were actually mines, human mines. The tools scattered throughout the tunnels were clearly made by human hands, but they were older than any human civilization should have been. Within a month, reports were coming in from all across human space. Every human colony world was finding the same thing: ancient human artifacts, settlements, and technology that predated known human history by tens of thousands of years. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to ignore. Back on Earth, the news was causing panic in government offices and excitement in scientific communities. Dr. Taeyeon Park, as the planet's leading expert on human history, was getting calls from researchers on dozens of worlds. All of them were telling him the same unbelievable story. "It's like our ancestors were already living among the stars when we thought they were still learning to make fire," he told his assistant during one of their late-night research sessions. The situation became even more complicated when the discoveries reached the attention of the Galactic Council. The Council was a group of older alien species who had been guiding humanity since humans first traveled to other stars. They had always treated humans like children who needed to be taught how to behave in the galaxy. Ambassador Gi-Wan Han was called to an emergency meeting at the Council's headquarters on Nexus Prime. She had been representing humanity in galactic politics for 5 years, but she had never seen the alien leaders look so angry and worried. "These claims your species is making are dangerous," said Elder Vexstar, a tall creature with 4 arms and skin like tree bark. "You are spreading lies that could upset the peace of the galaxy." Gi-Wan stood her ground even though she was much smaller than the aliens around her. "We're not spreading lies, we're reporting scientific discoveries. Human artifacts have been found on over 30 worlds, all showing the same age. The Korthax representative, a being made of living crystal named Quinder, made a sound like breaking glass. Your testing methods are wrong. These artifacts are contaminated. They cannot be as old as you claim. Then explain how human DNA is showing up in soil samples that are 50,000 years old," Ji-Wan replied. "Explain how human tools are buried under rock layers that formed before your species even existed." The room fell silent.
Ow.
The alien leaders looked at each other with expressions that Gi-Wan couldn't read. She had the feeling they were having a conversation she couldn't hear. Finally, Elder Vexstar spoke again. "Your scientists are making mistakes. We will send our own experts to verify these so-called discoveries. Till then, all human archaeological work must stop." Guan was shocked. "You can't shut down legitimate scientific research. The Galactic Treaty guarantees the right of all species to study their own history. The treaty also guarantees the stability of galactic civilization," Quinder responded. "Your false claims threaten that stability." Within days, human research teams across the galaxy were being ordered to stop their work. Alien ships surrounded archaeological sites, preventing scientists from continuing their excavations. Dr. Yuna Kim and her team on Kepler-4 B were forced to abandon their dig site and return to Earth. They're scared, Professor Park Jinwan told a secret meeting of human researchers. The question is, what are they scared of? The answer began to emerge when Captain Jiho Nam of the exploration ship New Seoul was ordered to stay away from a system where his crew had found evidence of ancient human cities. When he asked the Zephyrian commander why the area was now forbidden, the alien officer refused to give him a straight answer. There are things in this galaxy that are better left buried, the Zephyrian said. Your species is young. You don't understand the consequences of digging up the past. But humans were not willing to leave their own history buried. Scientists began working in secret, sharing information through hidden channels. Dr. Sung Yan Kong managed to smuggle samples from his dig site before it was shut down. Professor Yoonji Lee copied all her research. Data before alien authorities could confiscate it. The pattern was becoming clear to anyone who looked at the evidence. Humans had been spacefaring for much longer than anyone had believed. The artifacts were real, the dating was accurate, and the implications were staggering. On Earth, Director Bowman Shin of the Human Archaeological Institute called a secret meeting with the planet's top historians and scientists. The group that gathered in his office represented the best minds humanity had to offer. We're being prevented from learning about our own past, he told them. The aliens who claim to be our guides and teachers are actively working to keep us ignorant. The question we need to answer is simple. What don't they want us to know? The answer to that question would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Captain Jihonam watched through the bridge windows of his ship. The New Seoul, as 6 massive Zephyrian warships surrounded his small research vessel. His hands gripped the captain's chair as he tried to stay calm. Below them, the planet Kepler 186f spun slowly, its surface dotted with the ruins his team had been studying for the past 2 weeks. Captain, they're demanding we leave immediately, its communications officer reported, her voice shaking slightly. Jiho activated the ship's transmitter. This is Captain Nam of the human vessel New Seoul. We are conducting legal, archaeological, research under permit 7743 Alpha from the Galactic Council. Our work is authorized. The response came back cold and harsh. Your permits have been canceled. You have 1 hour to evacuate all personnel from the planet's surface and leave this system. Failure to comply will result in your arrest.
Hold on.
The planet, Dr. Sung Yan Kong, was carefully packing the most important artifacts his team had discovered. They had found clear evidence of a massive human city that had existed 45,000 years ago. The technology was more advanced than anything humans currently possessed. We can't leave all this behind, he told his assistant as they worked frantically to save what they could. These discoveries prove that our entire understanding of human history is wrong. But they had no choice. Zephyrian ships were already sending down enforcement teams to make sure the humans left. Dr. Kong managed to hide several small artifacts in his personal belongings, hoping the aliens wouldn't search too carefully. 3 days later, similar scenes were playing out across human space. On Wolf 359b, Professor Yoonji Lee's entire research team was arrested on charges of disturbing protected archaeological sites. The charges made no sense because the sites had been designated as open for human research just months earlier. Captain Sung Jae Kim of the exploration vessel Busan received an urgent message from his superiors on Earth. All deep space archaeological missions are hereby suspended. Return to Earth immediately. But sir, he responded, we found something incredible here in the Vega system. There's an entire human space station orbiting the 4th moon perfectly preserved. It's older than anything we've ever discovered. The reply was swift and final. Those are direct orders, Captain. Return to Earth now. On Earth, the situation was becoming desperate. Director Bowman Shin of the Human Archaeological Institute found his funding cut by 90% overnight. Government officials who had previously supported human space archaeology were now saying the research was destabilizing and dangerous to galactic peace. They're shutting us down systematically, he told Dr. Nyong'o during a secret meeting in his office. Every major discovery site has been declared off limits. Half our research teams have been arrested or gone missing. Dr. Go had been working around the clock to analyze the few artifacts that human scientists had managed to save. Her specialty was ancient languages, and what she had discovered was frightening in its implications. "The writing on these artifacts isn't primitive," she explained, showing Director Shin photographs of carved symbols. "It's incredibly sophisticated, more complex than our current writing systems, and the mathematics embedded in these star charts is beyond what we can do today." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that whoever made these artifacts 50,000 years ago was more technologically advanced than we are now. These weren't early humans learning to explore space. These were humans who had already mastered space travel and were building an interstellar civilization." The implications hit Director Shin like a physical blow. If ancient humans had possessed superior technology, then everything the galactic community believed about human history was not just wrong, it was deliberately false. Captain Jihonam had disobeyed his orders to return to Earth. Instead, he had taken the new soul to a remote system where his sensors had detected unusual readings. What he found there changed everything. Hidden in the shadow of a gas giant was a massive structure that was clearly human in design. It was a space station, the size of a small moon, its hull bearing symbols and writing that matched the artifacts found on dozens of worlds. But this station was intact, not ruins. "Captain," his science officer called out in amazement, "the station is still partially powered. Some sections are maintaining life support." Against all regulations, Captain Nam led a boarding party onto the ancient station. What they found inside took their breath away. The technology was sleek and advanced, far beyond current human capabilities. The computer systems were still functioning, filled with data written in an archaic form of human language. "These records go back 52,000 years, the ship's linguist reported after several hours of work. "Captain, according to these logs, this was just one of hundreds of human stations scattered across the galaxy. But the most shocking discovery came when they accessed the station's historical archives. The records spoke of a great catastrophe that had swept across the galaxy, destroying most of human civilization. The few survivors had been scattered to distant worlds, their technology lost, their history forgotten. "Sir," the linguist said, quietly, "there's something else. These records mention other species, the Zephyrians, the Korthax, others. But they're described as primitive civilizations that had barely discovered fire when humans were already traveling between stars." Captain Nam stared at the ancient displays, understanding dawning on him. The elder species of the galaxy hadn't discovered their technologies independently. They had found the ruins of human civilization and built their empires on humanity's forgotten achievements, and now they were desperately trying to keep humans from learning the truth about their own past. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, in a hidden facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Doyon Lim stared at the massive computer screens surrounding him. For 3 months, he and his team had been working in complete secrecy, analyzing data that had been smuggled from dozens of suppressed archaeological sites across the galaxy. "I think I've finally pieced it together," he announced to the small group of scientists gathered around him. His voice was tired but excited. "The story these artifacts tell is incredible." Dr. Hounsong looked up from her own workstation, where she had been studying stellar data. "What did you find?" Doyan activated the main display, showing a timeline that stretched back 55,000 years. 50,000 years ago, humans weren't primitive cave dwellers on Earth. We were the galaxy's first and most advanced spacefaring civilization. The room fell silent as the other scientists absorbed this information. Professor Won-Ho Kim, the oldest member of their secret team, shook his head in disbelief. "That's impossible. All the evidence shows that humans were barely using stone tools 50,000 years ago." "That's what we were taught to believe," Doyan replied. "But look at this data. I've combined information from 37 different archaeological sites. The pattern is unmistakable. Ancient humans had colonies on hundreds of worlds. They built massive space stations, developed faster-than-light travel, and created technologies that we still can't match today." Dr. Johan Park, who specialized in ancient technology, nodded slowly. "I've been reverse engineering some of the artifacts Captain Kim smuggled from that space station. The power systems alone are decades ahead of what we have now. The material science is beyond our current understanding. But what happened to this ancient civilization? Asked Dr. Song. Why did it disappear? Doyen switched the display to show a map of the galaxy with radiation patterns overlaid on it. I think Dr. Song can answer that question better than I. Dr. Song stood up and pointed to the center of the galactic map. 6 months ago, I was studying unusual radiation signatures in space. I thought they were a natural phenomena, but now I realize what they actually represent. 51,000 years ago, there was a massive gamma ray burst from the galactic center. She manipulated the display to show the burst's expansion across the galaxy. This wasn't just any gamma ray burst. It was the largest ever recorded. The radiation swept across the entire galaxy in waves, destroying most advanced technology and causing genetic damage to any life it encountered. The implications were staggering. Dr. Johann Parks studied the radiation patterns carefully. Colonies closest to the galactic center would have been completely destroyed. The ones farther out would have suffered severe damage, but might have survived. Earth was one of the farthest colonies from the center, Doyan added. The humans there survived, but the radiation caused massive genetic damage and social collapse. They lost their technology, their history, everything. They were forced to start over from almost nothing. Professor Kim was studying historical records on his tablet. This explains so much. The sudden appearance of certain genetic markers in human populations around 50,000 years ago, the unexplained gaps in archaeological records, we weren't evolving from primitive ancestors, we were recovering from a catastrophe. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Captain Suyun, you had been working separately from the main team, using her military connections to access classified alien databases. She entered the hidden facility carrying a data storage device that she handled like it contained explosives. Managed to access some restricted Zephyrian historical archives, she announced. What I found there will change everything we think we know about galactic civilization. She connected her device to the main system and activated a new display. The screen showed Zephyrian records dating back 40,000 years. According to their own secret histories, the Zephyrians didn't develop space travel independently. They found the ruins of human colonies and reverse-engineered our technology. Their first starships were built using human designs. The room erupted in shocked voices as the scientists realized what this meant. It's not just the Zephyrians, Captain, you continued. I found similar records for the Korthax, the Altarians, and every other major galactic civilization. They all built their empires on the ruins of human technology. Dr. Doyan brought up a comparison chart showing technological development timelines. Look at this. Every major breakthrough claimed by the elder species corresponds exactly to the discovery of human ruins in their territories. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, artificial gravity, it's all human technology that they found and claimed as their own. They've been lying to us for thousands of years, Professor Kim said quietly. The primitive species they've been patronizing and guiding was actually their predecessor. We created the foundation for everything they built. The weight of the discovery settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Humanity hadn't just been deceived about their origins, they had been robbed of their rightful place as the galaxy's elder civilization. What do we do with this information? Asked Dr. Song. Captain Yu is already preparing to leave. We take it to the people who need to know. Earth's government, the colonial administrations, every human in the galaxy. It's time to tell our species the truth about who we really are. As the team began copying the data and preparing their evidence, they knew that revealing this truth would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. The lie that had lasted 50,000 years was finally about to be exposed. Massive council chamber on Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. Ambassador Yejin Choi stood at the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by towering alien beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. In her hands she carried a datapad containing evidence that would destroy everything they had built their power on. Honored council members, she began, her voice echoing in the silence. I come before you today with proof that the history we have all accepted is built on lies. Elder Vextar of the Zephyrians rose from his massive chair, his forearms crossed. In anger, Human, you dare to come here and insult the very foundations of galactic civilization? Your species has been nothing but trouble since you learned to travel between stars. That's exactly the point, Jejin replied calmly. We didn't just learn to travel between stars 100 years ago. We've been doing it for 50,000 years. She activated her datapad, and holographic displays filled the air around her. Images of ancient human artifacts, star charts, and technological schematics appeared for all to see. The alien council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Dr. Minjin Bei, Earth's leading expert on ancient genetics, stepped forward to support the presentation. The genetic evidence is undeniable. Human DNA has been found on over 68 worlds, all dating back tens of thousands of years before the rise of current galactic civilization. Impossible, growled Elder Vexstar. Your testing methods are flawed. But other council members were beginning to look worried. Captain Ariamco activated another set of displays showing star maps recovered from ancient human ruins. These navigation charts show trade routes between star systems that your species claimed to have discovered. But these charts are 40,000 years older than your first recorded space flights. The evidence continued to pile up. It's an ancient human technology that surpassed current galactic standards. Records showing human colonies on hundreds of worlds. Most damaging of all were the secret archives that Captain Suyun had stolen from Zephyrian databases. Your own records prove that you didn't develop your technology, Yejin announced. We found the ruins of human civilization and reverse-engineered our inventions. Every major breakthrough your species claims to have made was actually discovered by studying human artifacts. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Some of the alien representatives began whispering among themselves in their native languages. Others stared at the evidence with expressions of shock and growing fear. Finally, Quinder of the Korthax spoke, his crystal body resonating with harmonic tones that sounded like shame. The evidence is overwhelming. Cannot deny what is presented before us. You're admitting it's true? Ijin asked, hardly believing what she was hearing. My people have known for generations, Quendor continued. We found the ruins of a great civilization on our home world. The technology was far beyond anything we could have created. We studied it, learned from it, and eventually built our own empire using that knowledge. Elder Vexstar looked furious. Quinder, you fool! We agreed never to speak of this. The time for lies is over, the crystal being replied. The truth was always going to come out eventually. Other council members began to speak. Altarians, a younger species, demanded to know why they had been kept in the dark. The Centaurians admitted they had always suspected the official histories were incomplete. One by one, the foundation of galactic civilization began to crumble. Dr. Sethone, Earth's chief historian, stepped forward to address the chaos. The question now is not what was done in the past, but what we do moving forward. Humanity didn't come here seeking revenge or demanding reparations. Came seeking truth. President Jisoo Han of the Human Colonial Union spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. For too long, our species has been treated as children who needed guidance and protection. We accepted that role because we believed we were newcomers to the galaxy. Now we know different. What do you want from us? Asked Elder Vexter, his anger replaced by resignation. We want an end to the lies, President Han replied. We want a new galactic government built on honesty instead of deception. We want recognition of humanity's true place in galactic history. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some species, ashamed of their deception, agreed immediately to the human demands. Others tried to argue that the old lies were necessary for galactic stability. A few, led by Elder Vexstar, threatened war rather than admit their entire civilization was built on stolen technology, but the truth was too powerful to be denied. The Altarians, who had always been treated as junior partners by the elder species, voted to support humanity. The Centaurians followed. One by one, the galactic community chose truth over comfortable lies. The final vote was not even close. The old Galactic Council was dissolved, replaced by a new organization that acknowledged humanity's role as the galaxy's first spacefaring civilization. Captain Dong Yun Lee stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned vessel Terra Prima, watching as ships from dozens of worlds arrived for the first meeting of the new Galactic Assembly. The ship's name meant Earth First in the ancient human language, a fitting symbol for humanity's reclaimed heritage. "It's not about revenge," he said to his second-in-command, as they watched the historic gathering. "It's about making sure this kind of deception never happens again." The galaxy had finally learned the truth about its past. Now it was time to build a better future,